This is the grand debut of the Cupra Ateca. And if the Cupra name rings any bells for you, it's probably because you've heard it on the end of Seat car names, like the Seat Leon Cupra, where it signals a hot model of one of its cars. But now the Spanish manufacturer has decided to chop it off the end of its car names and put it at the front, making it a sub-brand in its own right. And this is its first car. It's caused quite a stir because it swooped in and created a class all on its own. Quite simply, there's no other performance SUV that offers anywhere near as much pace and power for under £40,000. And if you're interested in buying a Cupra Ateca, head to the What Car New Car Buying section to see how much money you could save. But is this a risky and unnecessary move from Seat? Or is this a bold and exciting new name in motoring? Let's find out. This high-riding hot SUV has more than a little in common with the Volkswagen Golf R hatchback. So it gets the same engine, gearbox and all-wheel drive system that the Golf does. That means it has plenty of power. Its 296 brake horsepower, 2-litre turbocharged petrol engine slingshots the Ateca from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 4.7 seconds. And it will steam onto a top speed of 152 miles per hour. Those numbers embarrass a Porsche Macan, not to mention our favourite hot hatch, the Honda Civic Type R. Now, you don't need a physics PhD to realise that a low-slung hot hatch has far superior cornering ability than a high-riding SUV like this. So in the Cupra Ateca, when you turn the wheel, there is a bit of a delay between the nose reacting, more so than you'd get in a hot hatch. And when the car does turn, you get more body lean and ultimately less grip as well. So this performance SUV is not as good around a corner as the very best hot hatchbacks. Is that a great surprise? No. But does it mean you can't have fun? Absolutely not. This is still a really fun car to drive, and by SUV standards, it handles really impressively well. You can carry a serious amount of pace through faster corners. The steering in the Cupra Ateca isn't blessed with as much feedback as you get in a Porsche Macan's, but it's still accurate. The Macan, though, does feel like a more athletic, focused performance SUV with sportier, adjustable handling. But the Cupra Ateca isn't a million miles away, and considering it is significantly cheaper, that is a very impressive accomplishment. Choose the more comfortable of the two damper settings, and it doesn't feel any firmer than a big-wheeled regular Seat Ateca, unless you're in Cupra mode, at which point things do get very bumpy, and it also makes the steering unpleasantly heavy. There's a bit of road noise at motorway speeds in the Cupra Ateca, but none more so than you'd expect from a standard Seat Ateca. The engine's muted note also means that at a steady cruise you can hardly hear a peep out of it, which is nice if you're a fan of refinement, but a little bit disappointing if you want a full-blooded performance SUV. You'd like a bit more drama from the acceleration. If you didn't notice the copper-coloured emblem in the middle of the steering wheel, you'd be forgiven for thinking that this is just a standard Seat Ateca interior. But that's no bad thing, because the driving position is excellent, the standard instrument dials are very clear, the dashboard has a very user-friendly layout, and the visibility all round is pretty good. And that's even before you factor in the 360-degree bird's eye camera that comes as standard. Some might wish for a little bit more glitz and glamour in their interior. And while the quality is very impressive on a £25,000 family SUV, actually, now we're in a performance SUV with a much higher asking price, it's a little underwhelming. But the 8-inch infotainment system that you get as standard is reasonably easy to get your head around and very similar to everything else you'll find in the VW group. And it comes loaded with features as well. So you get a wireless phone charger with a signal booster, DAB radio, Bluetooth, sat-nav, as well as Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Perhaps the most obvious reason for choosing a Cupra Ateca SUV over a conventional hot hatchback is its superior practicality. Let's start with the front seats, and the first thing to mention is that they're actually much easier to get into and out of than a conventional hot hatchback. And that's because the seats aren't set quite so low to the ground as they are in a Civic Type R, for example. And then when you're in the seats, there's plenty of head, leg and shoulder room as well. As for practicality up front, well, remember this is basically a Seat Ateca, so there's plenty of storage compartments. And it's a similar story in the back here as well. So although legroom is good, it's not actually significantly better than what you get in a hot hatchback. But headroom most definitely is. So a couple of 6-footers will sit in the back here very comfortably. And that's even though the Cupra doesn't have any special practicality tricks up its sleeve, like sliding and reclining rear seats, which is something that you can get on more expensive performance SUVs like the Audi SQ5. Boot space is just as impressive as it is on the standard Ateca. And that means that you should comfortably be able to take your family away on a week's holiday. And just for the record, we managed to fit 7 carry-on suitcases in the boot of the Cupra Ateca up to the parcel shelf line, which is the same that we managed to fit in the Porsche Macan and the Civic Type R. All three are impressively practical. On the one hand, the asking price of around £36,000 seems pretty lofty, given the Cupra Ateca's humble origins. And there's no doubt that if you want something fun, fast and fairly practical, you'll get better value from any number of hot hatchbacks, the best being the Honda Civic Type R. But if you want all of those things in an SUV silhouette, then the Cupra Ateca is actually your cheapest option. It costs thousands less than the Porsche Macan, Mercedes GLA 45 AMG and the Audi SQ5. Keyless entry and start, adaptive suspension, digital instrument dials and a self-parking system all feature as standard. The Seat Ateca, on which the Cupra is based, scored 5 stars in the Euro NCAP crash test and comes with automatic emergency braking as standard. So the Cupra should prove to be just as safe. The Macan isn't nearly so reassuring when it comes to safety features. Now, as we said, standard equipment is impressive, but there are 2 optional packs that you can add as well. The first one is called Comfort and Sound. That brings an upgraded stereo system, an electric tailgate, heated front seats, and some additional safety features as well. It's definitely worth considering. The other one is called Design, and that gives you different wheels, some Brembo brakes, and a black interior styling pack as well. That one's less worthy of recommendation. You can also add both of them together, which is what we've got here. We've seen Abarth separate from Fiat and DS separate from Citroën, but in truth, neither of those sub-brands has made a great impact on the automotive world, with lackluster products and mediocre sales. If Cupra is to be a success, it has to start with a cracking product, and that is exactly what it's done. It takes the winning family SUV formula of the Seat Ateca and adds lashings of power and pace to give us a product that's reassuringly familiar and yet different, all in a price segment of its own. For much more on the Cupra Ateca, including our full review of it and all of its key rivals, head to whatcar.com. And don't forget, you can now buy your car through Whatcar. So when you're on whatcar.com, go to the new car buying section there and see how much money you could save. Remember, it could be thousands off your next new car. But before you do any of that, subscribe to our YouTube channel to never miss a video again. And if you like this review, give us a like.